Hi, I'm Jennie Schottmiller, CPA and family therapist, and today we're going to talk about business banking. Whether you've just started your business or you've been in business for a while, we're going to go through the things to think about in setting up your business banking. The first question that business owners often ask is, do you even need a separate checking account for your business? And the answer is absolutely yes. Now, if you've been in business a while and you haven't separated out your banking, it's nothing to lose sleep over, but it is a good idea to put it on your to-do list and get it done relatively soon. A separate business account keeps your personal transactions away from your business transactions. So all of your grocery shopping, clothing purchases, household items are not all mixed in with the things you buy at the office supply store for your business and all of the other supplies or purchases that you need to make for your business. If you mix them all together, there's a few problems that can occur. One is harder to separate out what you bought for business versus personal. You can shop at some of the same stores and buy personal items and business items. And at the end of the year, figuring out what's what is really complex. When you separate them out into completely different accounts and you use one card for business purchases and a totally separate card for personal purchases, there's no doubt what was for business because you purchased the things on the business card, and so you know those are your business items. It's also the basic expectation from an accounting and tax standpoint to have a separate account or accounts for business. If you're ever audited and they want to see your business bank accounts, you don't want to have to hand them all the personal purchases that you've made and then try to point out which ones were for business. You want to be able to hand them just your business bank statements so they can see these are your business purchases. It may seem like more work to set up these other accounts for your business, but in the long run, it saves you time by making it clear what is business and what is not business, since they're handled differently for taxes. And therefore, you're less likely to have mistakes or missed deductions if there's this separation. The next question a lot of people have is, do I need it to be an official business bank account? And the answer is yes, or ideally yes. If you've set up an LLC or a corporation or a nonprofit, that's a separate legal entity and it needs to have its own account in its own name. It doesn't work or make any sense to have this legal entity all set up with the state and then have all the money sitting in an account in your personal name. But even if you're a sole proprietor and there's really no difference between you and the business from a legal standpoint, there's no entity set up, it's still a good idea, and here's a few reasons. One is that banks have rules that businesses need to be run through business accounts, not personal accounts, and they can tell based on the number of transactions if something looks like it's a business account. And if you ever have a problem with your banking, it's good to be able to call the bank and talk to the business customer service individuals rather than the regular individuals and then try to explain why you're using a personal account for a business activity. Having official business accounts gives you that legitimacy and that you take your business seriously, not only separating the accounts, but having them under your business EIN or in your business's name. The next question is, how many accounts do you need? And the answer is at least one business checking. If you'd like to have more, you absolutely can. You can have as many accounts as you want, and that could look differently for every business. I'm going to go through a couple of options to think about. And what really matters is what is going to really work for you. If you're going to feel overwhelmed by a lot of accounts, then don't open a lot of accounts. Stick with one or maybe a couple. If it's going to really help you manage things and your cash flow and your expenses to separate out different things into different accounts, then you can do that. You just want to look for a bank that's not going to charge you high fees for having a large number of accounts. I often recommend at least starting with a business checking, a business savings, and a business credit card. And I'll give you a couple reasons why that might be a good idea. The business checking you need because that's where your deposits are going to go into, and that is where you are going to write checks if you have to write business checks. The business savings is going to separate out some money that you aren't trying to spend. For example, money you need to set aside to pay your taxes and money that you want to set aside for upcoming large purchases or to have a cash cushion in your business. And you can also set aside some money for your own paid time off. One of the biggest complaints about being self-employed is you don't get paid time off. But when you work for someone else, all they did was set aside some cash that was coming in for when people took time off so that they could pay them when they took time off. And you can do that as well. You can set aside a little bit of money every month. You could set aside a little bit of money whenever there's some extra cash, and that can be in a savings so that you don't mistakenly spend it. You can have one savings for these things, or you can have multiple savings accounts for these things. You want to pick a bank where it's going to be really easy to move money around between business checking and business savings. If they're at separate banks, let's say you want a separate bank that has a high yield savings, just make sure you can easily transfer money back and forth. I often recommend a business credit card, and the main reason is fraud. If there is fraud on a debit card because you're using your checking for purchases and online subscriptions, then they can drain your account, and it might be a few days before you get the money back. And you're out that money. Your business probably needs that money to operate. If there is fraud on a business credit card, then all you do is call the credit card and tell them there was fraud and they take the charges off. You're not out any cash. But another reason to get a business checking is rewards. Now, rewards can be cash back, they can be cash back for purchases, they can be just general cash back. If you get money from a business credit card into the business account, that is going to be other income. If you get money back on purchases, it's going to reduce your business deductions, because if you buy something for $50 at the office supply store and then the credit card gives you $50 back, you now no longer have that expense when that deduction might have helped you out tax-wise. The other option is a card that has reward miles. And if you get reward miles that can be used for travel, you can use that for personal travel. So let's say you decide to travel for business, but you still want to get that deduction. So you pay for that travel and you get that deduction. But personally, you decide to go on a vacation and you can use miles for that vacation and it's not business income. So business reward miles is a great way to use a credit card to get a personal benefit while also avoiding problems related to fraud. The last thing I want to cover is, where do you open your business accounts? And it's a really personal preference. Some people like small banks and credit unions because there's really good customer service. A lot of times, really small banks don't have the funds to make nice online banking apps. The really large banks have funds to have great apps and online services, but sometimes the customer service is lacking, and there are other reasons why people just don't like large banks. So looking for a medium-sized regional bank sometimes can be a good compromise. The other thing I would really focus on is, what are the fees? You don't need to pay extra for banking fees, and ease of transfer. Can you transfer money to yourself when it's time to pay yourself? And can you move money around between your accounts? Can you easily pay your business credit card? And just to make your life easier. Make sure to click like and subscribe below, and check out my other videos on this channel. Also go to my website, simpleprofit.com. I have tons of free and low-cost resources for small business owners.